Enterprise Management 360.
Hello and welcome to this EM360 Tech Chat video. Now on today's show, I'm going to be speaking with Philip Miller, who's the co-CEO and co-founder at Solidatus. Philip's joining us today to talk about Solidatus, their journey and the solution that they offer. So Philip, welcome to the show and thanks for coming on today.
Thanks very much for having me.
Very welcome. And before we delve into the subject matter, would you mind just giving our viewers a bit of background on yourself and Solidatus?
So I'm Philip Miller. I am one of the two founders. There's two, I think we know as the two Phils. We have very similar background actually, which is really good for us. We chime on a lot of levels. So I spent 20 years in investment banking IT, working at fascinating organisations like Deutsche Bank and Royal Bank of Scotland, Barclays, HSBC. Over the course of my career, I've done some really interesting, very intensive data jobs. So I'm a data geek. I'm a software engineer by trade and definitely by passion, and always worked with really large data sets that were really important to the organizations that I was involved with, as it were, working for.
So where did the idea originally come from, and why did you feel the need to develop this solution?
The reason of being is to get you into possession of your own property and have you own it. And that can be done at many levels, but it involves understanding the context of how your organization works, which people do, right? So your long-serving people understand that, but it's a person. It's not something you can just query. People are not like Google. You can't just go along to people and type a search in and then get lots of results back. We're kind of that tool which allows people to donate their intellectual property to the organization, put context around it. The organization can layer lots of structure around it. You can crowdsource lots more information. Then you build up this really holistic modern map. You know what modern maps are, Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever your flavor is. You build up this modern picture, crowdsourced, up to date always, and accessible to lots and lots of people. So that's where we are now. We're at a place where we've built a piece of software and smells like a tool that people want to use. It's accessible, it's transparent, it's usable by management, it's usable by a tech person, it's usable by a governance person, it's usable by a regulator. And out at the end of that, we have a very much more structured organization. And from our perspective, as practitioners, so for myself and Phil, as people who are operating in the industry, we look at it and we see, if I'd have had that tool, guess what? My projects would have been half the price and would have been 5 times faster. It's almost like recycling, right? So if we do well, how many times you buy something and a little thing breaks on the edge and then the thing's useless? You've got to throw the whole thing away. And then this is what software's like. A little bit breaks around the edge and people go along, oh, I can't deal with it. Got to replace the whole software. Well, actually, you don't need to. You put a little bit of effort in and you can fix that little thing around the corner. It doesn't mean little sticky tape on the side of glasses. It means actually, you can replace that component of the software. And guess what? You can make that software last a lot longer.
Yeah.
Value, it's like recycling, being able to use things longer, getting more mileage out of something. If you wear a piece of clothing once, it's very expensive. If you wear it 100 times, it's very cheap. It's the same with software. So reuse, understanding, getting through lots of barriers in terms of time to delivery, being able to demonstrate your projects are much more doable. This is everything that Solidatus stands for.
It's interesting because we had a discussion before this when we were putting this together, and you said that data isn't expensive, but complexity is. So could you maybe walk me through that concept in terms of where organizations are currently failing their data?
If you look at it and you think of data as an asset, if I asked you every place that you have a piece of personal data, now this is a request that legally you could make upon any company that you deal with, right? So you could say, show me where all my personal data is in use. If I turn that around and I said to you, please tell me all the places you control personal data, your personal data. Now you think about that, all the bank accounts that you might have, or mortgages, or store cards, or telephones. You've got a house phone, maybe you've got a couple of cars, or whatever. You've got children who have school detail. Think about that. Now, if I say to you, I need that by this afternoon, because actually that's what my right is. It's actually 72 hours, let's say, but whatever. How much time is that going to take for you to go find that? And you think about what your time is worth in terms of man hours.
Yeah.
Now, you lost something. You've lost a card. You've lost some information. Suddenly you can't find that card. Now, how much does that cost you? That card's gone. I've now got to maybe cancel it or work out whether it's been used by somebody or lots of other things. What was the actual number? I've got to go find the number now. I now need to find the number of the card company to cancel something. Alternatively, let's think that you've got a kid, and the kid needs a credit card number in order to buy something. So now I've copied that credit card number. Maybe the kid's got Amazon account. I mean, we're all a bit older and our kids are teenagers or, whatever else. And they've gone to university and you say you can use the Amazon card and so on. So you can use my card on your Amazon account. You can buy some, whatever supplies you need for school, university, whatever. Now I've got to go to work out every time I see a purchase on my credit card statement. Was it my kids? Was it my purchase? Suddenly I've got data not being quite controlled by me, but being owned by me. There's kind of duplication of data now. So my credit card number's here, but I don't control all of its uses because guess what? I've copied that credit card number somewhere else. And now my kid controls some of the uses. The data itself wasn't really expensive, was it? I mean, that piece of data is nice and simple. It's 16 numbers and maybe 4 numbers for an expiry date and maybe 3 numbers on the back or 4 numbers on the front or whatever. The data didn't cost anything to store. But think of all that time. I've got my credit card statement I need to go through. I need to ask little Johnny, when did he use my credit card and what for? Complexity. And that's just in your own house. Now you scale that up to an organization with obligations around privacy, with obligations around reporting, with obligations around maybe different types of jurisdictions. So I'm in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 countries. Actually, it doesn't take much to breed an enormous amount of expense because you didn't really keep a tab on where your data was, what it was doing, why it was doing it, who it was doing it for. Now I'm back to my family of 4, and already I've lost a couple of days to, working out what I'm doing. We all have our admin days, right? We've got to spend a day of holiday or lose a day of weekend just to take the letters out of the envelopes that have been piling up for 4 or 5 months. Yeah. You take that up to a corporate level and you scale up complexity to, epic proportions. A big bank with 80 million customers operating in 30 or 50 or 100 countries, how much that costs the organization just to run. And then you go back to something like Yes Minister, Department of Administrative Affairs. It's a joke, but it isn't a joke really, because the administration overhead costs loads of money. And actually, if you misplace one of those bits of data that actually proves to be quite, important, guess what? There's a fine behind it. There's a balance, and it's not just a fine, it's a reputation thing as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to that. And I think that's excellently explained in terms of how it can become so complicated for something which could be quite simple at the end of the day. So I think that's very fair. And I wanted to kind of move on to kind of my final area that I want to understand from here is, in terms of Solidatus, how do you see the company evolving in terms of the impact that you want Solidatus to make?
If I was my co-founder, it would be the immediate answer would be world domination. I think, yes, I think what we want to do is make an impact. We're practitioners and we used a lot of tooling and arguably had access to some of the very, very best that was available when we were there and running as staff members in these big organizations. And we followed the best practice. So in no cases would I think that we didn't do exactly. We had all of the resources and proper software engineers, proper data people and so on. We did everything correctly. Our mission has been to sort of make things simpler. So the complexity angle, reduce complexity, reduce cost. There's a whole bunch of things that fall off the back of that. If you make the world less complicated, it instantly becomes more controllable. It becomes more consistent. It becomes cheaper, no question, and more transparent. And all of those things are actually really, really good things to have. In terms of our future, so we were lucky to go through the whole of the last year with new customers coming in and our general flow of deals accelerating, principally because people realized they needed to understand their data better. And we exit the year having had a lot of interest from third parties, and we got some investment. We got some really good investment. Citibank invested in us, HSBC invested in us, and a very good sort of investment partner, Albion, also invested in us, and that has given us, if you like, the ability to now run ahead of what were already very stable, very stable cash flow with a distinct upward trend to it. So we're able to run a bit ahead of ourselves, and where we want to be, I think, in 18 months, without revealing plans more than you'd like to, if you're a competitor watching, good luck, sort of style. I mean, if we've already got a great product. It's universally appreciated by everybody who uses it. We only pretty much have inbound sales, so all of the sales we've had are because people have sought us out.
Yeah.
That's going to change. So we're going to start going to the market a bit more and showing ourselves off a bit more. But also, we've got a very good complete tool with a very big story. And I think over the next year to 18 months, we're going to be refining that story. So it sees not only a lot more industries. I mean, we've got a good financial services base. We have bits of retail, bits of pharma, bits of government, and so on and so forth. We'll be able to refine that story very well for those particular areas, and as we expand, we'll be able to take it out a bit. But also the software, we're going to be able to put a lot more into it, and we've got some really stellar ideas about how things will change over the next 18 months. The types of things that people are interested in today will modify. It's no secret at all that climate change is a very big agenda, and it's been, one of the answers is by better technology. No question that we hold the keys to our own world, and if we're clever about how we use our tech, we might get ourselves into a really good place with that. So we'll see a lot more, I think, from ourselves, a lot more lensed offerings. So take the lens of climate change, or take the lens of regulation, or take the lens of transformation, and we'll be able to put those on our product, not just in a more structured fashion. So at the moment we tell a good story, but actually people will recognize their own industries a bit more in the product. We'll be able to also, I think, leverage bigger and bigger networks, so bigger economies of scale from ourselves, and that no doubt will help not just us. We have this sort of internal phrase, we want to make data a better place.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect mission, and I can only wish you the best of luck with that. And Philip, all I can say is it's definitely an achievable dream for sure. And thanks for coming on today's episode and walking us through all of this. It's been great.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Philip. And thank you, everyone who took the time to watch this episode. If you are looking for more information on what we discussed today, head on over to solidatus.com. We've got the link down there in the description below. You can join the conversation at EM360Tech on Twitter and LinkedIn. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. And of course, for more great daily content, head on over to em360tech.com.